Hey, Allison Verhalen here with AV Writing Services, and today I want to talk to you about your content marketing goals. I see a lot of people, specifically small business owners, who are writing their own blogs for their business and not really seeing results from it. And there can be a lot of different reasons for that, but part of it is they're not really thinking with the end goal in mind, or their goals are kind of vague, right? They know they want to drive traffic to their website, they know they want more business, and they assume that if they write up these blog posts and put them up on their website, then everything else will just magically happen. And it doesn't really work that way. Yes, a blog can help drive traffic to your website, but is it driving the right traffic to your website? And yes, it can drive more business for you, but only if you have the right call to action at the end of your blog post. I see so many small business owners and new marketers who don't even have a call to action at the end of their blog post. They just assume that people will automatically know what the next step is, and they'll just take it on their own without that prompting. And it doesn't work that way. You really need to lead people through the buyer journey, through every single step to the next step, all the way to the point of them actually buying from you. So have that call to action at the end of your blog post. Know what action you want them to take next. If you're selling something that's fairly low cost and or something that's totally necessary that people really need, you can get away with a call to action that leads them right to a sales page and asks them to buy from you. If you're in the B2B industry like me, if you're in a professional services industry, you need to be a little more strategic about that. You need to lead them through, maybe ask them to sign up for your newsletter or follow you on social media, and find other ways to get that great content in front of them before you go to getting them to buy from you, because it's going to take a little longer to build that trust from them and convince them, A, they really need your product or service, and B, they need it from you and not someone else. So I'm sure you've heard about SMART goals. Everyone has talked about them a lot. They're kind of all over the internet, especially if you're in the entrepreneurial area. I'm going to go over them again as they relate to content marketing. So just as a quick refresher, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. So for every goal you set, including goals for your content marketing, you need to make sure that they fit these parameters. So we're going to talk about specific content marketing goals. So again, be specific. Don't have this general, I want more traffic to my website, I want more business. That's great, but you need to be specific about it. If you want more traffic to your blog, how much traffic do you want? Look at, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to achievable, but look at where your current traffic is and see what's realistic as an increase. So make sure it's really specific so that you know exactly how much traffic you want coming to your blog or to another post. Maybe your goal for that particular piece of content is to drive traffic to another piece of content. It could be another blog post. It could be a landing page. It could be a piece of cornerstone content. Whatever it is, again, you have to know what that piece of content is, know what that goal is, and have a way to measure it. I keep jumping around with these because they're all interconnected. So be really specific. If you want subscribers to your social media or to your newsletter, measure that. Make sure that you have a really specific goal of, okay, I have this many followers. If I get this much traffic to my blog, maybe I can get this many more followers or this many more subscribers to my newsletter. So that does lead neatly into the next one, which is measurable. Make sure that it's something that you can actually measure. If you want some more newsletter subscribers, you can look at your CRM and see where, A, if you got more newsletter subscribers, and B, where they're coming from. Your CRM should be able to tell you that. And if not, you can get a new form that is specific to that piece of content, so you know exactly how many people came to your newsletter from that form, which will tell you how many people came to your newsletter from that piece of content. Social media, it's a little harder to measure, but that's, again, if you have this blog post that you put out and you ask people to subscribe to follow you on social media and you get more social media followers, that's a pretty good indication. Showing up on the first page of Google is not achievable. We're going to jump right on to achievable. We all want to show up on the first page of Google for all of our target keywords. That would be a perfect world, but a perfect world doesn't exist, especially if you're just starting out. If you've been blogging for a while, then absolutely make sure that maybe that is a tough goal that you want to tackle, and that's great. But if you're just starting out, it's not, it's just not achievable. So maybe you want to rank on the first page of Google for one particular keyword. And so you have a bunch of content. Maybe you have a cornerstone piece of content and then a bunch of cluster content, all targeting that keyword. And maybe that way, and relevant keywords that are related to that target keyword. That can be a really great way to show up on social media, on the first page of Google. Get those backlinks. I talk a lot about the importance of backlinks for SEO. That's a great way to get buy-in from other people. So absolutely work on that. And yeah, just make sure that it's super achievable. As you spend more time content marketing and more time building your presence online, maybe the first page of Google is super achievable, and that would be great. But start small, because so many of us have these really big goals and we get frustrated when we don't achieve them right away. So sometimes it's better to just start with the smaller stuff and then work your way up towards the bigger stuff. Relevant content marketing goals. Is it relevant? I see this a lot with the call to action, where again, the call to action isn't really relevant to where the person is in the buyer journey right at that moment. They're not ready to buy yet. So if you want a piece of content to drive a certain number of sales, again, if you're in a B2C industry, if you're selling low cost and or necessary items, then maybe that is realistic for you, but it's certainly not realistic for me. It's not realistic for most of my clients who also tend to be in the B2B space or in professional services. So instead, it's much more relevant to lead them to the next stage in the buyer journey. So again, subscribing to your newsletter, following me on social media, reading another blog post that's relevant to the one they just finished reading, getting them more engaged with my content, getting them to read more of my content, so that, again, I can lead them to the next stage of the buyer journey and convince them that I have what they need. And next up is time-sensitive content marketing goals. This one I have trouble with because content marketing really is a long game. It can take months for Google to index and categorize a new piece of content. So expecting it to show up on the first page of Google the day you publish it is just not realistic. That's not how Google works. And it can take a long time to earn Google's trust and earn the trust of your readers. Google wants to see a lot of content and a lot of steady new published content before it's going to trust that you really know what you're talking about and that you're really going to be around for a while. So it can take months, if not years, for a content marketing strategy to really pay off. And that's when you start, ranking well in Google and getting traffic to your website from Google searches. So that being said, maybe some of the shorter goals can work. Obviously, if you have a blog post that you've just published and you don't see any results from it, no traffic to that blog post after a week, that's a problem. You should absolutely, Google might not have indexed it yet, but you should absolutely be pushing it out on your newsletter, on social media, letting your followers know that you just published this new blog post. Let them know so that they can click through and to read that new blog post. And that traffic, that organic traffic, will give Google a clue that, hey, this is valuable content. People are reading this content. They're naturally finding their way towards it. That will actually help boost your SEO, which will boost your visibility later on down the road. Also, keep in mind that content marketing is more than just blogging. Obviously, I talk about blogging a lot, but it's also your newsletter, your social media. Are people opening your newsletter? When are they opening your newsletter? There's a lot of data with your newsletter you can play around with. See who's opening your newsletter, see when they're opening your newsletter. The general consensus is that the middle of the week is the best time to send newsletters, but I've heard people say that sometimes they do send out their newsletter in the middle of the week and people don't open it until Saturday or Sunday when they know they have the time to really read the content and really engage with it. So it's all about knowing your audience. And I'm guilty of that too. I know I have some newsletters that I follow that I'm like, I'm not getting to this right now. I'll get to it later. So know your audience and check that data, see when they're opening your newsletter. So if you don't have a lot of opens the first day you send out your newsletter, that's not a big deal. But if it's been a week and no one has opened your newsletter, that's a problem. Then you need to adjust the headline or when you're sending it or something, because something is not working. Same with your social media. It's going to be different for each platform. The tweets tend to be very short-lived for the most part. I mean, they're always there if people go searching, but on average, about half the people who are going to see a tweet have already seen it 45 minutes after it's been posted. Whereas most of the other social media platforms, those posts tend to last about 24 hours. So I do not recommend obsessively checking your social media stats to see, if you have more followers, how many people have engaged with your posts, but check in on it at least once a week just to kind of keep an eye on how you're doing on social media and adjust accordingly. So that is it. Those are my tips for making and achieving your SMART goals for your content marketing strategy. If you want more content like this, you can check out my website, which is avwritingservices.com. And you can always reach me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging.